Welcome to INDYCAR Live, presented by Verizon, where we set the stage for today's 153-mile race. And if you were with us for qualifying, you will know that the track did not look like this. A fairly decent rain shower has just moved through over the NRG Park Stadium circuit, and yep, you can see that tells the story, doesn't it? So it's given the drivers and teams a little bit extra to think about, and scattered showers the forecast for the remainder of the afternoon. Here is the radar to give us the latest, and most of it's off to the east, so we shouldn't be too drastically affected this afternoon, but everything is still on schedule, ready to start as per the rundown. Hi folks, Lee Diffie with you here trackside in Houston on the first weekend of summer 2014. Although it's been raining, things are about to get hot, things are about to get very busy. We enter the halfway point of this season on what's been a very intriguing and interesting season so far. But more importantly, things are about to get extremely busy for the Verizon IndyCar Series. 3 weeks off since Texas Motor Speedway, but in the next 23 days, there are 6 races. This is a massive workload for everybody involved. Of course, the doubleheader here in Houston, off to the tricky triangle, Pocono, a super speedway, to the less than 1 mile, 7/8 of a mile Iowa Speedway, before going back to the third and final doubleheader on the streets of downtown Toronto. So really busy times, but there's a lot to talk about right here in Houston, and we start with Kevin Lee. Kev?
Well, Lee, we should be entertained today by the championship leader, Will Power. He's going to start from near the back. This is the tech pad. He just left to roll out to pit lane just a moment ago. He has been able to start at the front in a third of his road and street course races, but he's been frustrated today. They missed the setup in qualifying, so he's going to start 18th, but don't count him out yet because they won from 16th in race number 1 at Detroit. Now over to Jan Bikas.
And Kevin, with this rain shower, there's now a flurry of activity down here at Firestone, and you mentioned in the qualifying show, Firestone is debuting a new rain tire at this event. In simple forms, same construction, same compound, but new grooves, deeper and computer modeled to try to dissipate the water better than its predecessor. And I have a feeling, Kelly, this is going to see some action today.
Sure could, Jan, but these teams have been anticipating the heat and humidity here in Austin for weeks, and Mother Nature has delivered. At time, the heat index reaching triple-digit degrees. Now, hydration, of course, paramount, not only for the body but also the mind, as this demanding course leaves little room for error. We've been given this rain shower now, Lee, which, if there's any positive to be taken away, has helped cool things down just a little bit. And
people have been asking for that all weekend. It's very challenging here in Houston for teams and drivers alike. When we came here last year for the doubleheader in 2013, it was the first visit back to this venue after a 5-year break. However, the action was as hot as the weather. Let's go racing in Houston! Massive championship implications for Helio Castroneves. The man has been sitting stationary for 7 laps. Will Power, Scott Dixon, they're in a league of their own.
They could not get the jack to go up. This will cost Will Power a little bit of time. Dixon
wins his 4th of the year.
Good job, boys. That's what we needed. A little more interesting now.
The title contenders are starting 1 and 2. It's the championship leader leading the race.
Oil everywhere, man.
Castroneves has oil leaking from his car. He's done, he's done. Oh. Castroneves is done.
The gearbox housing has broken.
Can you believe this?
Will Power goes to the lead on the street to Houston.
Castroneves is back to try and grab as many points as he can. It's a Penske day, it's a Will Power day in Houston.
And Will Power certainly had it going, winning from 9th last year in the second race at Houston. He's got his work cut out for him here in this race. Double that. He's going to have to start in 18th. What happened in qualifying?
I guess I didn't learn my lesson in Detroit. Went a certain direction with the setup, and I really thought it'd work here, but it didn't. And now we've actually gone the opposite. So, my teammates up there, obviously we can get the car to work, and another busy day.
And a challenging track and an adventuresome first practice when you basically launched over the bump in turn number 1 to the point where they've actually ground that down and lowered it a little bit. Yeah. What did that do, and how are you feeling after that?
Man, yeah, let me tell you, that hurts the back. I have to say that they've done a good job. With the old car, you would have broken your back at that height. Anything, when you're getting up there around a meter, you break your back. So now they've added a little bit of foam on the bottom, and not feeling bad today.
All right, we might be starting in the wet. Is that welcome for a guy starting near the back?
Yeah, I think anything that kind of makes it an abnormal race will help us, because you're not going to drive through the field if it's just a full dry race.
All right, have a good one today.
Thank you.
That's your championship leader, Will Power. Let's hear from the guy now who is chasing him, his teammate with Jan.
Yes, and his teammate is always animated, even more so now as Brazil, having won just moments ago, came out dancing out of the trailer. Okay, switch gears.
That was close, man. You didn't watch it, but that was a close game. So now that we're going, I can't believe when it came out it was wet. I'm like, what's going on here? But yes, now we got to focus on the race and see what happens.
Well, tell me about that transition. What do you do when it's wet? What do you change? What do you not change?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I don't think we ever done a standing start on the wet, so it's going to be a pretty amazing thing to do. But sounds like it's going to dry, and probably everybody's going to start on wets. It's going to be determined by the series. I don't know, and we just got to stay there and stay out of trouble. So not much in these terms what you can do. It's the same for everyone, so we just hope for the best.
Well, the best place to be, of course, is on the front row. Kelly?
Well, Scott Dixon finished first and second in the doubleheader here in Houston last year. That gave him the points lead. He, of course, went on to win the championship. But in 8 races this year, you have just 1 podium. How pivotal is this weekend to get your season going on the right track?
Would definitely be a good time to turn it around. You know, I think we're sitting sort of 8th in points, and you know, it looks kind of bad, I think, because of the bad result that we had, especially at Indianapolis, to put us back. But, you know, we've been in situations like this before, and we can definitely fight back. You know, Houston, a couple of podium positions would definitely help a lot in points, and, you know, I think morale and stuff for the team would be huge as well. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting day, obviously, with the weather, and you know, see what we can pull out of it. But I'm excited. The cars, target car's been pretty quick, and hopefully we move towards and stay at the front.
Certainly we're throwing a bit of a curveball with that last rain shower. How strong do you expect to be in changing conditions?
Yeah, you know, I think that it seems, you know, when we've had sort of a bit of rain here during the weekend, that it dries pretty quickly. So, you know, we may start on wets, but it might only be for the first 3 or 4 laps. And it's definitely going to be exciting for everybody to see people switching early, maybe having a few mistakes out there. But, you know, I think for the racing, it's going to be awesome.
The defending champion will start 3rd. Lee?
And Kelly, Scott Dixon has mixed feelings about memories of Houston. Of course, he won to help his championship chances last year. But it was also the scene of his longtime friend and teammate's final IndyCar race. This is the turn 5, the high-speed sweeper, where Dario's IndyCar career goes to an immediate and abrupt and very aggressive end. We won't forget those scenes, will we? And with that in mind, and we should say, if you don't keep up with IndyCar news, that Dario these days is doing fine and enjoying life post-racing. There has been a massive change to the circuit. They have spent some $1 million on track and safety upgrades. There is no grandstand there anymore on the outside of Turn 5. And the safety fences, which are FIA standard, have been now tethered with those wire points. Now, last year, the track was a big talking point, mainly for that enormous bump on the main straight. It delayed things earlier in the weekend, and in the race, after being ground down, the drivers just had to deal with it. Now, look at this year. It's a lot smoother, and speaking with track constructor Martin Fake, he said that there was some 200 feet of concrete removed and relaid for it to be a much smoother surface. And here you have live pictures of the track now, a mixed track weather-wise and condition-wise, but it's a lot more user-friendly, should we say. It's a lot more driver and car-friendly this time round. Now, we were in Texas 3 weeks ago at Texas Motor Speedway, where that man there, Ed Carpenter, went to victory lane, but mixed fortunes. It wasn't all celebrations, because for some teams, it went the wrong way, as we will tell you when we come back to Houston. Today starts the doubleheader weekend in Houston, a place where last year the championship hopes of Helio Castroneves faded fast. He's done. Oh. Castroneves is done.
What he done here.
Unbelievable.
2014 has seen the 4-time championship runner-up battle his teammate Will Power, where in Detroit Power took duel number 1 and Helio duel 2. But it was in Texas 2 weeks ago that Power seemed to leave an opening for Helio to take the championship lead.
Penalty, pit lane speed violation.
That's 4 drive-throughs in 5 races. It's not good enough.
A late race yellow gave Power the chance to put on fresh tyres and climb back to a strong second-place finish.
That could be the move that gives him a championship.
With 2 chances this weekend, Elio looks to redeem last year's misfortune and Power to surge and continue his title lead.
Houston IndyCar fans, are you ready? It's time for those most famous words in all of sports. Please welcome President of Global Retail Marketing for Shell International, Mr. David Bunch, to give the command.
Drivers, start your engines! Well, we often think of Penske, Ganassi, and Andretti as the big three power teams, but it might be time to start including Schmidt, Peterson, Hamilton Motorsports in that group, especially with Simon Pagenaud. Certainly the performance dictates that. 5th 2 years ago, 3rd last year, and contending for the championship again this year, Kelly.
One of the big stories this weekend, Kevin, is the young Italian Luca Filippi racing for Rahal Letterman Lanigan in his first start of the season. He qualified 4th, and while all these drivers got to practice those standing starts yesterday, this guy's been doing it for much of his career. He's very comfortable with the procedure, Jan.
And for Will Power, one of the things that he has complained about as a leader is he doesn't like that they close the pits under full course caution, but today, that is the very thing that might help Will Power go to the front. They call it fishing and wishing. In other words, pit early and then wish for a caution. That may be the case today. That'll lead to Will Power vaulting to the front. Robin?
Tony Kanaan started 2nd this year in the season opener at St. Pete, but since then on road and street courses, it's been a disaster. His average starting spot 16th. Today he takes the green flag in 22nd spot. It may be a blessing it's raining though, because he always runs good in the rain, and he's one of the best guys at passing cars, as we know. Back to you, Lee.
Yeah, we'll look for big performances from the likes of Tony Kanaan and Will Power. I want to remind you, don't miss out on your chance to get in on Honda's fastest seeded sports sweepstakes. Simply by you can enter by logging on to shophonda.com. Today's lucky winner is right there on the right-hand side of your screen. Janice Charlene Vaughan from Reelsville, Indiana. Hey, Janice, how's the ride?
Woo! It's awesome!
And you get to do it in pretty slippery conditions. Well, you enjoy yourself, and congratulations.
Yes. This is great.
And again, by logging on to shophonda.com, you could be just like Janice and win the opportunity to start a race in the Verizon IndyCar Series and take a ride with the likes of Indy 500 legend Arie Luyendyk. Just look at those track conditions. Pretty incredible. Cars out on track, and with that, it's time to take a look at how they will line up the starting grid with thanks to Mother's Polish. And for the first time, yes, I reiterate, the first time in his IndyCar career, it's kind of hard to believe, Simon Pagenaud on the front row.
And along the front row with him is Helio Castroneves.
And that's the place to be with the spray, the immense spray that'll be flying up. Let's roll through the rest of the grid. And there is Luca Filippi starting alongside the three-time and defending champion Scott Dixon. Very strong performance from him. Steve, what are you looking for? What are you going to do in these conditions?
Well, row 3 there we saw Takuma Sato, and Sato very comfortable, as we know, with standing start, so that will be to his advantage as we roll back through the grid now. All of these guys, Montoya, Newgarden, all of these fellas further back, their biggest concern is going to be that spray, the standing water on the track, which is going to go sky high. Paul, as soon as this race gets underway, visibility is going to be a key.
Well, that's one thing I noticed as we see Mike Conway and Will Power. I saw that some of the drivers are running tear-offs, and I noticed that Simon Pagenaud has no tear-offs on his visor. So one of the big problems you have in these conditions is that water will get in between the tear-offs and then fog up in between, and it's almost like putting on a magnifying lens. You lose all your vision completely.
Yes, that was Helio Castroneves going by appropriately, I guess, in this weather in the yellow submarine. The Pennzoil colours and that really famous livery is back. Want to show you some onboard views that we will bring you today from Houston with thanks to National Guard. This is Graham Rahal. He's starting a little further back in the pack, and he's in 14th. new livery, new color scheme. We'll tell you about this for Charlie Kimball. That's thanks to Chevy. That's what it looks like there for him. For the Indy 500 winner, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Verizon brings us this viewpoint. And Ryan's looking to turn things around in his championship. The man up front, Simon Pagenaud, Lucas Oil, provides this onboard view for the Frenchman, who just has that foreign feeling, doesn't he? Starting up front on that front row in the pole position for the very first time. And with thanks to United Fibre and Data, this is James Hinchcliffe's view aboard his Andretti Autosport machine. And here is another Frenchman, four-time open wheel champion, Sébastien Bourdais, and very much in the same vein as Ryan Hunter-Reay, looking to turn things around this year. He just wants to build on some momentum. And a reminder that you can download the INDYCAR 14 app by simply going to verizon.com/INDYCAR, the App Store or Google Play. Verizon and INDYCAR, driving technology. So, INDYCAR race officials are going to allow the drivers some extra laps just to check it out, see where there is some standing water and get in the groove, so to speak. Now those folks don't mind if it rains, if it pours, if the sun's out, or if it's humid. Look at that, what a view, what a place to watch from the newly named NRG Stadium, formerly Reliant Stadium and Reliant Park here, home of the Houston Texans. And this is what they're looking at, the Verizon INDYCAR Series, and a very wet 1.6 mile track greets the 23 drivers today. Super challenge ahead. Welcome back to NBCSN's live coverage. We're excited about this. It's race 1 of 2 this weekend, exactly the same time tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, to catch round 10 of the championship. And we're just hearing from race control, due to this delay, there is now a time limit put on this race. It will be time, not laps. 1 hour, 50 minutes, 5-0. 1 hour, 50 minutes for this 9th round of the Verizon INDYCAR Series, the Shell-Pennzoil Grand Prix of Houston. There have been 6 different winners from the 8 races so far. Terrific variety in the Verizon INDYCAR Series, and that's what we have become accustomed to over the years. Paul Tracy is with us, Steve Matchett's with us. Paul, when you were going around on these out laps, these observation laps, what are you looking for? What are you telling yourself? What are you noticing that perhaps the other guys don't?
Well, as we see a lotion pop out there and take a look, you're obviously going around, you're getting a look for where the puddles are, if there's any deep water, getting a slight feel to see if there's any grip offline, trying to see if how the grip is on the rubber and the brake zones. But obviously they're not running at speed yet, but you know, they're getting an opportunity to just have a good look at it, and they're giving them an extra pace lap here before the start, so everybody gets familiar with where the puddles are.
I think that's a very good thing for them as well, to do a few exploratory laps. Remember, we haven't seen rain so far. This is the first time. It just came down like an hour or so ago, so this is the first time that this weekend that the drivers have had a chance to even run on the full wet tyres. We are going to do the standing start. Grip will be at an absolute premium, and this surface has no grip to begin with.
Go a little bit farther forward. You're good.
And it works off, if you're not familiar with it, it's a light sequence, and as soon as the lights are extinguished, the race is on. On the left-hand side of your screen, it's Simon Pagenaud, ready to go in Houston. It's the first of this doubleheader weekend. And away we go. Pagenaud with a terrific start off that front row. And Takuma Sato in a little trouble there, 3 wide through that first turn. Michaela Lotion got off to a nice start as well. Look at the spray as Castro Neves in the yellow Pennzoil car holds on to that second place. We're hearing that Graham Rahal in the National Guard entry has stalled on the line.
Looks like Graham, yeah, stalled on the line. Sato, here it is. We pick up the shot now of trying to get the car going, but very, very fortunate for Sato that he wasn't taken out there as he tried to force his way through the line ahead of him, but managed to keep going.
Luca Filippi gets on the inside of Scott Dixon, so a nice move there in the other National Guard entry. 2 cars this weekend for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing.
And you would think there'd be a little bit of holding back on the opening lap, but these guys are getting into the RG-bargy as Sato slides down the inside of Filippi.
He told us earlier that he was feeling racy, he was feeling confident, keep the conditions consistent, and I'll go after it. And that's what last year's pole sitter is doing. On board with Charlie Kimball. Look at that.
Boy, oh boy, you've got to be so careful to put the power down here again, we're talking about the rain and how it takes away from the grip on this very low grip track to begin with, but getting that traction down, Paul, it's all about easing that throttle out of those low traction corners, isn't it?
This type of track, I don't even think until you get to the front straightaway that you could ever get to full throttle. Around the stadium in the long sweeping bend, I'm sure they're running at about half to quarter throttle around there to be safe. But there's very little opportunity with how slippery this track is to even hold the throttle wide open for a lap, in a position where you would during qualifying.
Pagenaud in the absolute pound seats, as they say over in Europe, in terms of where you want to be, because he's running in. Look at the difference here in terms of visibility. Of course, because there's nobody ahead of him, and already begin to make strides on the field behind. And the result of that is just because of the amount of spray that's coming off the cars. We saw that shot earlier on, the onboard shot, just to give some indication. You cannot see the cars ahead of you if you're on the third or fourth row.
As you saw, as he came down the braking zone there, he was about a car width over off of the wall from the outside, and the brake zone would be covered in rubber. He's moved off of the rubber line in the brake zone.
This was just a few moments ago on board with race leader Simon Pagenaud. Did he take a shortcut? Let's have a look.
Most certainly did.
He most certainly did. He completely missed the second part of that turn 2 chicane and just breezed on through. Now, IndyCar race officials reiterated in the drivers' meeting that if you do that there, you must fix the position and give a position back. He didn't gain a position, and he does it again.
Yeah, he's done it again. He certainly won't be as on his own.
Does it.
Yeah, Hinchcliffe does it, and that is a different situation. I think if you're leading the race, how can you give up that position? There's nobody ahead of you that you've made an advantage on.
And I think just so long as you don't get a ridiculous advantage time-wise, so a 1 second lead becomes a 3 second or 4 second lead. As we go through this, Scott Dixon back to Ryan Hunter-Ray. There's Justin Wilson, Sebastian Bourdais.
1.2 seconds for that shortcut. 1 point.
There you go, you heard the radio. He has to give back 1.2 seconds, so an advantage was gained to car 77, Simon Pagenaud. Let's get to Kevin.
Not only are they dealing with the moisture and the visibility issues, but Juan Montoya radioed in early on in that first lap. He said, my visor's fogged up. I can't see anything, but he's managed to basically hold position. He's dropped to 12th. Robin?
Pagenaud said earlier today, he almost didn't get through the second session this morning qualifying because he had so much problem with brakes. I think that's what's happening to him again, and that's why he's going straight, so we'll see if he can correct it. But they spent a lot of time on it this morning before they got it right, and Steve can probably add to what maybe they're dealing with. But he said one tire locks up and the other one keeps going.
Especially in these conditions.
One point to go. Just stay with it.
I'm just wondering whether or not the brakes are overcooled. You have to get these carbon rotors up to the correct temperature to get the best efficiency out of them. And I think now they're just running too cold.
Look at Hinchcliffe, went straight through on the inside of Elio Castro Neves, blew the chicane, now comes over and squeezes Takuma Sato. Sato goes on the inside of Elio. Look at the AJ Foyt racer go.
Good job, good job.
That was the voice of Larry Foyt encouraging his racer, and Takuma Sato is right now on Simon Pagenaud as we ride with Hinchcliffe. He's going wheel to wheel with Elio Castro Neves through turn 5 around the outside at one of the fastest corners on this track.
That's a very, very tricky, that's like threading the needle through that corner to try to go two abreast. It is so bumpy through that corner. Now, there's also puddles there, but the move that Sato made was very, very slick.
Have a look at this on board with James Hinchcliffe.
He's just got the front tires locked. He's locking, unlocking.
Watch for Sato on the inside. What a move that was. 2 in 1.
Absolutely beautiful.
That was what I talked about in these pre-race shows. You got to put a little brake bias to the rear. If you have too much on the front, you'll just continue to keep locking the front tires in these conditions.
Look at the fight for the lead of this race early on. Takuma Sato just loves these conditions. He's going to go around the outside. He misses the chicane. He will not pass Pagenaud because he knows that he'd have to give that position back. Slots in right behind the Schmidt-Peterson-Hamilton racer.
Boy, Sato is absolutely on fire. Of course, he's got past history of being able to race in the rain because of his Formula One races, where he's really got very, very used to driving in the rain. He's got great car control in these conditions. He's really taken the fight. Remember, Sato started this race from row 3.
He's got the run right now. I think he's going to try and make a move down the inside.
Whoa! Big move from Takuma Sato. A little bit of moisture doesn't put him off. Straight into the race lead goes Sato.
absolutely remarkable.
All right, buddy, you're the leader. We need some points. We got to finish this thing. Look after your tires.
That's code for calm it down.
After the tires, look after the whole car.
Faster than anybody, just be smooth and take care of your tires.
That's fantastic driving, son, so far. Get on with it. You've got to get some hay, get away from the pack behind you now. Some absolutely incredible opening laps from Sato.
Let's show you that move and how dynamic and decisive it was. No attack, no chance is his motto. Well, he attacked, he had the chance, and he took it.
Yeah, where's that braking zone? Oh, it's there.
I really like the coaching that Larry Foyt is giving Sato. I mean, that's. I mean, as soon as he got the lead, he said, "Okay, we got the lead. You're the fastest car on the track. Let's settle down." And once you settle down, he'll probably drive away from these guys.
Simon Pagenaud erring on the side of conservatism, that's for sure. That you heard Rob Edwards on the radio say, okay, we've got a long way to go. Whether he does have some brake issues or not, we don't know, but he is just taking it gently. Sato's disappeared out front, and now Pagenaud's being hassled and hounded by James Hinchcliffe for that second position.
Yeah, Hinchcliffe having a look as well around Pagenaud, you're rightly. And again, Paul, I'm just thinking that Pagenaud's car, the brakes are just not doing what he wants them to do.
No, he had a braking issue in qualifying when he had to change the rotor, and we questioned whether that was going to be a problem for the race. But you know, obviously he's not overheating the brakes, but just he doesn't seem to be very strong under braking compared to the other guys.
And Helio Castro-Neves is hanging in there. Who's been the biggest mover in these tricky opening conditions? Tony Kanaan has made up 6 spots. Mike Conway has made up 6 spots. And Carlos Munoz on the move, but no one bigger or better than Takuma Sato. He leads. Verizon IndyCar Series, the Shell-Pennzoil Grand Prix of Houston. Great to have you with us. And boy, what an interesting race already in very challenging conditions. Wet, dry, it's changing all the time. And we understand that while we're in the break, Marco Andretti ran into some dramas in the Snapple entry, and there you see the rear left injured. So through goes Tony Kanaan. This is at turn 2, the turn 2 chicane. Oh, and that's his teammate. That's Carlos Munoz coming into contact with Marco Andretti.
Looked like he gave him the Andretti salute as he was spinning around too.
Wow. So teammates colliding, and through goes James Hinchcliffe. So he is up, it's another Andretti Autosport driver, up to second place over our pole sitter, Simon Pagenaud. If you've just turned on, Takuma Sato is the race leader by some 4.5 seconds, and he did it with some pretty aggressive, decisive driving and just carving his way through those ahead of him. This is Marco Andretti limping his way back into pit lane. Rear left is down.
That's flat. So we change the 4 tires and you're on your way.
We see Marco Andretti in that Snapple car come to a stop. There was a radio transmission right after it happened. He was clearly upset with his teammate Carlos Munoz. They give him 4 fresh, wet tires. He's back out, but unhappy with his teammate.
Really interesting story about Marco this year. He has completed the least amount of laps of any of the drivers in this championship at 70%. And yet he's still 5th in the championship standings.
It's incredible that he's still 5th in the championship because he's had such an up and down season, and the results really haven't been great to speak of, but somehow he's managed to keep himself in the top 5, which is pretty good for not completing a lot of laps.
Sato can't wait to get ahead of Andretti, still pushing forward. At the start of this Grand Prix, Grand Prix of Houston again, and just see how Sato made this very aggressive move. We're down here. Sato started the race, remember, down in P6 on row 3. Watch the start of the race there. Sato pulls straight out into the middle file, down and bang, bang, both cars on row 2.
So he collides with Hinchcliffe, and then that ricochets him into Luca Filippi. He did have to get out of the throttle, but it wasn't for too much longer because then he went on the attack.
It was like a bowling ball, wasn't it? Going straight down the center of the alley. Boom, through, and off he goes.
Cars snapping sideways, just highlighting the challenging conditions here in Houston on what is ostensibly a parking lot track.
Well, this is a parking lot track with a lot of concrete, a lot of seams, a lot of changing conditions of the track from pavement to concrete. So we now have Sato kind of stuck behind Marco, and hopefully Marco won't give him too hard of a time and just go about his own race.
guys, we've had some educated speculation on what issues Simon Pagenaud is dealing with. Let's find out from the source. Rob Edwards calls the race for Pagenaud. What's he been dealing with early on?
Early on, we've got an imbalance on the front brakes. The car's been pulling to one side, so he's having to adapt to that as well as the wet conditions. So just having to figure things out in kind of difficult conditions, but there's a long way to go. So I think that's a track drive. We've got a good car, and the race will come back to us.
Did the wet make that worse, and will it get better as it dries?
It's hard to know because we didn't obviously run in the rain before. Certainly not a problem we had this morning, so some probably the conditions aren't helping it for sure.
Thank you. Simon Pagenaud still hanging in there in third place right now.
It's got Elio Castroneves in that yellow Pennzoil, the yellow submarine entry, all over the back of him. Behind him, Luca Filippi still maintaining the top 5 spot. Ryan Hunter-Reay is 6th. Scott Dixon is 7th. Justin Wilson is 8th. Sebastian Bourdais up to 9th. And Mikhail Aloshin in 10th. Tian, more on brakes. What's happening?
Yes, and we had a moment ago where James Hinchcliffe was chasing down Simon Pagenaud. Of course, now you can see the gap. He's pulled well clear of Pagenaud. So I asked their team, are you having any issues with the brakes? Because they're one of the teams that was running large brake ducts. And Steve, you wondered whether with large brake ducts, if the water going in those was overcooling the brakes. Well, in the case for Hinchcliffe, they were A-OK. They had absolutely no problem, and that appears to be the case for Sato as well. So at the moment, that braking issue is confined to Simon Pagenaud.
They are very, very temperamental things, carbon brakes. It's not carbon fiber, there's no fiber in there, it's a carbon. Basically, atoms of carbon sprayed onto a rayon web. They take for months to make, about 6 months for each brake disc to come out, each brake rotor to come out of the oven. But they are very temperamental things. They're wonderful when they're working at the right temperature, and of course they're light, and weight is all important in any series of motor racing. Certainly it is in the IndyCar series. So light brakes that work well are phenomenal, but keeping that core temperature, Paul, that's the key around here, isn't it?
Well, and also in the case of Simon's situation where they changed one front rotor, that would be the equivalent of having 4 used tires and putting on 1 new tire.
Yeah.
It's going to throw the whole balance of the 4 working equally together. It's just not the right thing to do.
There's Will Power in the Verizon entry, and he started 18th, he runs 18th. This is not the progress that the championship leader was hoping for. Why did he start in 18th? If you didn't catch our qualifying show, he simply didn't make it out of the opening phase of qualifying. He said he chose the wrong setup. He took responsibility for it, and now he's paying the price.
Well, I think he is paying the price here as well. If you look at the chassis now, it seems very stiffly sprung to me. It's moving around. It's got a lot of oversteer, a lot of understeer. Both sides of the car, both ends of the car, Paul, to me, just don't seem to be hooking up with the track in anywhere close to what Sato's doing at the front of this race.
I completely agree with you. I know, having talked to Power's engineer, that he likes a very stiff car in the front.
There is the ABC Supply entry of race leader Takuma Sato. I bet you Supertech's AJ Foyt and the whole team are thrilled by the sight of this, Kelly.
Well, we heard some of the radio calls from Larry Foyt to his driver, Takuma. It was pretty aggressive there at the start. What did you think of the moves by your driver? Working on it.
10-4.
They're working with him right now. We'll let him sort out these issues and get his thoughts in a moment.
I'm wondering if Takuma is expressing some frustration by not being able to get...
pulling away from second place.
To get by. Marco Andretti starting to stress a little bit, and there was that radio call. You are still pulling away from second place. In fact, Sato's got a 4-second lead over James Hinchcliffe, who is in second at the moment.
And that's one of those situations, Lee, where you've got one driver who's a team driver for Andretti, maybe trying to back him up to the other driver, but these are the times when you can just lose your head and try to stuff it down the inside, lock the brake, and then you can end up in the runoff as quickly as that.
And there has been an update on the situation of the Marco Andretti Carlos Munoz incident. Munoz will be penalized for contacting Marco Andretti and putting him in a position where he's fighting to stay on the lead lap. You're watching IndyCar on NBCSN. NBCSN takes you to the stunning Santa Anita Raceway as the world's top thoroughbreds race for a chance to compete for the biggest purse in racing. It's the Gold Cup in Santa Anita, part of the Breeders' Cup Challenge tonight at 7 Eastern, right here on NBCSN. We welcome you back to Houston. Verizon INDYCAR Series, the Shell-Pennzoil Grand Prix of Houston, and this is 37-year-old Japanese driver Takuma Sato who leads the way. You remember that horrendous tsunami and earthquake in Japan back in 2011? Well, Takuma founded With You Japan, and recently, as he constantly grinds away to raise funds for the victim, 15,000 people were killed in that tragic event, 300,000 are still homeless, and he is tirelessly working to raise money and help people in his homeland of Japan. Recently, he had an online charity auction where he put his Indy 5 helmet up for auction. He signed it, AJ Foyt signed it, and they raised just over $15,500. There was an anonymous bidder who matched that, not to get the helmet, just to donate the money. So Takuma himself raised over $31,000 for the people of Japan who are still suffering from that horrendous natural disaster. So, with that being said, let's head to his team. Let's hear from Larry Foyt.
He still tries to work his way around Marco Andretti, but what a start for your driver. What did you think of those moves there early in the race?
Pretty aggressive, but that's why we love Taku. So he's doing a good job in the ABC car. And yeah, the track's drying out. It's going to be really interesting what happens.
Yeah, between the conditions and now a timed race, how has that affected your strategy?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing is who can get on the dry tires if it starts to dry out, because that can be a big advantage. So just got to see how it plays off, you know, within the next 20 laps as you come to pit stops.
And still no progress made on trying to clear Marco Andretti, and with that he has lost some 0.6 of a second to James Hinchcliffe. Not a massive margin, but Hinchcliffe is edging closer.
Well, that's a little bit of team tactics going on, Steve, and you know, obviously Marco doesn't want to go down a lap because it's always difficult to get that lap back, so he's going to try and hang on as long as he can, but he is backing him up to his teammate.
Yeah, and as you say, it's good team tactics. Marco doing everything that he should do, really, but obviously, and you just made the point, he doesn't want to go a lap down on Sato. But Takuma's going to have to Takuma's going to have to find a way past Marco. And the track is drying. I mean, we're nowhere near, I would suggest, we're nowhere near the point of thinking about going on to dry weather tires. But on certain parts of the track, if it doesn't rain anymore, the dry line is definitely starting to appear. Here, look, coming down the front straight here. Look at that. That's a dry line.
Well, listen, you heard Paul Tracy say that this man here, Marco Andretti, could be doing a nice team job and backing Sato up to his fellow Andretti Autosport teammate James Hinchcliffe. That's exactly what's happening. It wasn't that long ago we told you it was 4 seconds between Sato and Hinchcliffe. It's now down less than 3. It's 2.8 seconds between first and second. Hinchcliffe is coming, and Sato cannot do anything about Marco Andretti, who's fighting to fend him off and stay on the lead lap of this race.
It's not like Sato can wait for him to come in for fuel, because he has more fuel and fresher tires than Sato, because he pitted with that flat tire, took on fuel and tires. So he's going to stay out there longer than him, so he needs to find a way by.
You've been talking about when would you make that change from the wet tires to the dry, and for James Hinchcliffe, he just had a radio communication. The team said, we would like to go 18 laps. He says, I'm not sure these tires will last 18 laps. He also replied, your car has high grip.
Blue flag on car 25.
And when you get a blue flag on car 25 from the start-finish line, that means they're going to make Marco Andretti move out of the way of Takuma Sato, because you can see now the Hinchcliffe is closing in. He said the car is hydroplaning in some places, so there's no way we can go to dries now.
It is a very difficult call. Yeah, these wet weather tires, they will work very well in the wet, but if you start to run them on a dry line around here, around any racetrack, they will degrade very quickly.
A couple of laps ago, this is championship leader Will Power, Sebastian Saavedra, and Saavedra with a successful move on Will Power. So it has been a troublesome day. He was quickest in the opening practice session yesterday, but ever since then, it's gone the wrong way. He's on pit lane.
Power's the first to come in on a normal strategy. Others are still going to try to go another 10 to 12 laps. That is for Joseph Newgarden, going 12 more laps. They go from the wet Firestones to another set of wet Firestones. Tony Kanaan also in and back out through the wet conditions.
See how this one shakes out for Will Power, but he was a long long way down the order as far as time behind leader. Tony Kanaan right behind. And this event, if you remember last year, not very generous to points leaders, and it was his Penske teammate Helio Castro-Neves who just had a nightmare run and saw his championship lead evaporate that really aided Scott Dixon, who won one, and then Power won the second. So we will see how this one works out. No more laps, it's timed. 1 hour, 50-minute race. We'll be back. Dixon's not very
Your last chance on this lap to let the 14.5 happen. 0.6.
Did you guys catch that? They're going to stop scoring in the thing.
Yeah.
What was that, Jan? Can you just give me that again?
Marco has to let Sato
This
by.
lap he has to let you by. That's what the league told him.
This seems to have taken a long while.
What they do is they will give you a cushion, and as soon as they saw that he was backing him up to Hinchcliffe and there wasn't a gap between the two, they're going to make him get out of the way. If he could have maintained a second and a half or 2 seconds, they would have let him slide.
From the time that the flag is shown,
It's supposed to be 1 lap, so they're giving him 1 extra. They should have already.
This is gapped him a little bit now. I mean, Sato's not right on top of him.
The damage is done because that 4-second advantage is now 7/10 of a second. So Hinchcliffe's there, isn't he? So it's kind of mission accomplished.
Starter, let's black flag car 25, please. Let's black flag car 25.
That's adding insult to it.
This is for failure to yield to the blue flag. Mark. Rule 725.
Uh-oh. The Andretti salute's coming out of the cockpit.
Now through penalty car 25.
Too late.
As you saw at home, Marco Andretti has finally moved over and allowed Takuma Sato and his Andretti Autosport teammate James Hinchcliffe by, but the damage has already been done. Michaela Lotion has a gentle spin, and the race officials have decided to black flag and penalise Marco Andretti for failure to yield to the blue flags. It simply took him far too long to do that, so they have penalised Marco Andretti. He will need to perform a drive-through. Charlie Kimball's on pit lane.
And he is also going to go, oh, he's going for slicks. Wow. This is the first car I've seen. He's going for the sticker reds. Oh! This is a brave move. Watch this car when he goes across the puddle on the way out of pit lane.
It is a brave move. It is a phenomenal throw of the dice. Paul, I'd like your take on this. Surely it's too early for those tires.
I think it's 100% too early. I think the track is too wet in the backside. I mean, the only real dry spot is right here.
Right there.
And then right coming out of the chicane, it's soaking wet here. So I really think he's going to have a difficult time getting around on this outlap.
We are seeing a dry line form, as we were saying before. Certainly down the start-finish straight, we're seeing it more and more, but some of these corners are still dripping wet. Well, every engineer now will be studying timing and scoring to keep track of how these dry weather tires are hanging in.
Let's take a ride on board with Charlie Kimball. Let's have a listen to how gentle he's being on that throttle and where is he being aggressive.
This is the bad section right here. It's very wet in this section of the track.
on board, Paul Tracy. What do you think?
Well, he's a braver man than me, that's for sure. But if he can get around 1 or 2 laps, then I think he might be in a really good position because he's the first guy on slicks.
Paul, you were talking about it earlier on, how gentle the driver has to be on throttle application in these wet weather conditions, and you could hear it there off Kimball's car every time the throttle was applied, every upshift.
Well, these cars are not easy to drive in the wet either because of the twin turbos. They fall off the boost, and then the boost comes in really hard. It's not like a normally aspirated motor where you have 10% throttle given as 10% power. With the boost lag, I mean, these things come on like a light switch.
Here are the guys who tackled at Texas Motor Speedway 3 weeks ago. Justin Wilson and Sebastian Bourdais. Incidentally, you may have heard that Bourdais was fined $10,000 and put on probation for the rest of the year. That fine and penalty has since been rescinded. So he is in the clear. And those two fight over 7th place, 6th place.
It's going to be very interesting to see who goes for slicks here.
Oh, Pagenaud has overshot the corner, spun, brought it back around. Race for the lead is on here. Hinchcliffe attacking Takuma Sato.
And you see that gap increase a little bit just as we lost the camera shot there, as we switched cameras for a second. Hinch had a bit of a moment and lost the back end of the car, managed to pull it back into line, but all of a sudden that gap opened up.
All right, guys, some last lap times for you as we take a look at the replay. This will be Simon Pagenaud just flick spinning it around and getting going again. Last time by, race leader Takuma Sato's lap was a 1 minute 12.77. Charlie Kimball on slick tyres, 1:12.85.
Oh, wow.
That's what it looked like for our pole sitter Pagenaud. And look at Hinchcliffe searching for that water.
Newgarden in the pits as he's taking slicks, reds.
On to the wets.
Kev?
And with the change to the regular tires, those are alternates, those are scuffed. They make a front wing adjustment as well, so we'll see if Newgarden can hang on.
Yeah, Newgarden, you're absolutely right. Newgarden sent out onto those dry tires, onto the options. They're the red tires with more grip, and I'm sure the team would have cranked in some more downforce on that front wing ball to try and help the driver with stability in these conditions.
Clear, all clear.
Well, the guy that this is not panned out for is Power, who took the reins on his first stop, and now these guys are going to slicks. He's going to have to come in again, which adds insult to injury.
Yeah, I think Power's car, though, it's so stiffly sprung anyway that he was suffering. It was a handful on the wet weather tyres. So what it would have been like on the dry red tyres would have been an incredible thing to see.
One turn of front wing, 1 turn more.
Yeah.
Now you hear they're going to add 1 turn of front wing, and that happens. Of course, he's going to the red sidewalls as well. Just ahead of him, they're starting to set the pit up for James Hinchcliffe. So both Andretti Autosport cars, in fact, look at how many cars are coming on the pit road, all going for the dry tires. In that case, for Montoya, it looks like he's going with blacks as opposed to the soft reds. I would think for me, I would want a sticker set of reds.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jan. I think I would want to be using as much grip as you can get, and it is the red tyres that's going to do that.
Oh.
Allotion. Well, we've already seen problems before in Allotion with wing. We saw the rear wing was in trouble before, and now he's knocked the left front main plane clean off that nose section.
Let's show you what happened to the Russian rookie. This is his 3rd incident of the race. And is it going to slap out and then crack the wall? Yeah, one way, then the other.
Ooh. That's what they call a tank slapper.
Here is race leader Takuma Sato in and on the red wall tires.
On Son, you've got to push now. You've got to push on these tires. It's going to be so gritty. Yes. Got him.
And that's because Hinchcliffe had a lightning stop on pit road and got that position. The team is high-fiving. What a move.
It was an absolutely phenomenal move. You can see that Sato was so desperate to get out. He knew Hinchcliffe was right behind, but it is advantage. Hinch just faster pit work, what it looked like. Sato, no response to it.
Gingerly around on this out lap for the first time on slick tyres. This is very much an exploratory lap. Not so for Charlie Kimball, who was the first to go on for those, and he knows what it feels like, but he's well down the order in 15th place. These are the guys fighting for the lead of the race and have been for many laps. James Hinchcliffe leading the charge for a much-needed Andretti Autosport turnaround. Let's have a look at the Canadians' pit stop. As Jan said, it was lightning.
Perfect marks, absolutely perfect position onto the reds.
just like that.
Yeah.
And it was comfortable. There's 2 or 3 car lengths there, so no worries at all. And that's got to pump you up. Oh, Conway's in trouble. Mike Conway, after being one of the biggest movers in the race, in trouble.
For Justin Wilson, he got in just in time. You want to pit before the caution because they closed the pit. So this is a break for Justin Wilson. That's about 9-second stop for him, but thankfully he pitted before the caution.
Boy, oh boy, did he ever. Wilson just absolutely caught that. What a stroke of luck. Not a stroke of luck for Mike Conway, guys.
No. So what happened here to the Long Beach winner, the 2-time Long Beach Grand Prix winner?
Well, we see all 4 corners are on the car. We see the front wing, we see the rear wing.
In the background, here comes the fuzzy Chevrolet.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, all I can see, it looks like the front wing, yeah.
Front wing and suspension, the right front's got to be wrecked. You can see here the broken push rod here. Look, this is the push rod on the left-hand side of the car. Now look at the ding on it on this side. That can't be right, can it?
On those slick tyres, the red wall Firestones, and that's got to be agonising when you know that you're just drifting a little wide.
Yeah, it looks like it's hard to tell what exactly happened, but it probably locked up the brakes in the brake zone on cold tires, and just once it's locked, you can't get it to turn, and it went straight to the tires on him.
So can this be James Hinchcliffe's day? The mayor of Hinchtown has had 3 non-finishes this year. He needs it. From 4 wheels to 2, I know many of you will be excited about this. The Tour de France begins next Saturday right here on NBCSN. 21 days of grueling competition for the world's best cyclists, enduring cobblestones, mountains, the sprints, and it's all for that chance to ride back in to the Champs-Élysées in Paris and ride into history. The grand depart of the Tour de France next Saturday morning, 6 Eastern, right here on NBCSN. We welcome you back to Houston. It is the first of 2 races this weekend. It's the second doubleheader of the season in the Verizon INDYCAR Series, and Power is back in, the championship leader.
Set your fuel. Remember, you're leaving on sticker flag here. Leaving on sticker flag.
The last to come in on the wets, as far as those that were running up at the front, he was 12th, so he was the highest runner of those still on the wets. Will Power back onto the Firestone primaries. Stay with us. We're racing in the wet, but it's drying up quickly here on the streets of Houston.
James Hinchcliffe in the United Fiber and Data car for Andretti Autosport is the race leader, coming to the close of this first full course caution on a real mixed weather day here in Houston for round 9 of the Verizon INDYCAR Series. And he has worked hard to get up there to catch. He was aided a little bit
Center 3, prepare for the start.
by his teammate Marco Andretti, who was holding Takuma Sato up. He ended up being penalised for that. I was remiss to tell you that Marco did actually serve that penalty earlier in the race. So we're ready to get back to green flag conditions with the mayor of Hinchtown at the front of this field over Takuma Sato. Elio Castro Neves in the Pennzoil Yellow Submarine is running 3rd. Michaela Lotion is out of the mix, and he's had a pretty rough day. Through the very challenging turn 10, final change, green flag flies. Let's go back to racing here in Houston.
A nice clean start by Hinchcliffe, pulled a little bit of a gap. We have Michaela Lotion in the mix being a lap down. Hopefully Castro Neves can get by him and get in the fight as well.
Further back is a pretty racy bunch. You've got Justin Wilson, who's come from 7th to 4th, Bourdais, who's done very well in the mystic entry there. Then behind him you pick up Ryan Hunter-Ray, Simon Pagenaud's dropped from the pole to 7th, and Luca Filippi running in 8th, Scott Dixon and Juan Pablo Montoya in 10th.
I don't think Sato wants to race with a Lotion. Exactly what I was afraid was going to happen.
A lapped car, Michaela Lotion takes Takuma Sato out of this race. One of the most spectacular drives to the front, and led and then fought with James Hinchcliffe, and now it's done.
Just don't see what the etiquette is versus Formula 1 to IndyCar when guys are a lap down racing with the cars in front of them. What's your thought on that, Steve?
Well, you're not racing. That's the thing, isn't it? If you're a lap down, you're really not racing for position, you know? You've got to be... You can't do that, can you? That's crazy.
To get the right front.
Let's have a look at the replay. You make up your mind. You got Sato on the right, a Lotion on the left. Sato is second. Aloshin is a lap down.
I don't even think Sato knew he was there. He was just taking the normal braking line. And
yeah, I agree with you. I don't think why would Sato assume that Aloshin was going to make the move or try and pull any sort of move down on the inside of him?
And in the words of Larry Foyt earlier in the race, let's be smart, bud. Let's get some points and bring this home. That's a tough one to swallow for Takuma Sato and the ABC Supply AJ Foyt Racing team.
Just hope AJ doesn't go to find Mikhail.
Oh.
He'll be in some trouble.
Hands up in the air from Aloshin, like, hey, you know, what do you want me to do? Well, I don't know. I didn't want you to do that.
I think he's got a sore wrist. Sato is shaking his wrist.
And Sato is just not even interested in communicating with Aloshin.
Boy, oh boy, Sato just put on such a spectacular race up until that point. I mean, we showed the replay, that phenomenal start, bursting through the second file on the grid to get ahead, and then being held up by Andretti. You know, losing time, and then for his race to end like that, with just over an hour to run in this race, an hour and 4 minutes. And you can see the poor lad's injured his wrist, pouring water over his right wrist. A phenomenal race for Sato up until that point.
And did you notice the opportunistic move by Sebastian Bourdais right there for KVSH Racing in the Mystic entry? He pounced on Justin Wilson and grabbed that third spot before the yellow came out. And this is a little earlier in the race. This is why it's pretty crushing for Takuma Sato. These are the kind of moves he was pulling off. A little bit of contact there with Simon Pagenaud, but great out-braking maneuver. That was for the lead of the race. And in the opening stanza of this event, he just put on quite the drive.
Well, and especially there, I mean, it was a stunning start to get off row 3 and burst through the second row as he did. But there, you know, you could see that Sato's car is locked up, and the Japanese doing all he could to control the car, but did control the car and managed to pull that move off on Pagenaud. It was terrific, tremendous stuff.
I just don't see how you could place any blame on Sato for what happened in that latest result.
Robin?
AJ, how do you see this whole thing? Because it looked like Sato had a 4-second lead, just pulling away, kind of got held up by Marco Andretti, and then you get beat out of the pits, and that really gets him in the middle of this whole thing.
Well, when you're down pits where we are, you're going to get beat out. We had a great stop, but the deal with Marco and all that, more or less, I would have to say blocking for his own damn car is a bunch of crap. They don't seem like they want to do anything there, and like this deal here was probably just as much his on trying to move over and the other boy, but what gets you a car lap down, you'd think you'd back off, but I don't know. You got a bunch of goddamn idiots is all I can say.
Well, I would say that here, Larry, you were talking to him earlier, like, calm down, you're still faster and he was maintaining that 2 to 3 second advantage, and then Marco really closed in on him. So what were you telling him then?
Well, Hinchcliffe closed, yeah, like I said, because Marco was holding us up, obviously, and you know, they tell us they're going to make these calls, and then it just doesn't, and they let it happen. But yeah, we had the best car easily. That's what was so disappointing. Is that's a time, you know, in these races when you do have an advantage, you're not going to have it long, because this, you know, IndyCar racing is so tight right now and so competitive that when you got the best car, you got to get out there and make that time when you can. So when you have a team play come in and that affects your race, it's just frustrating. It's tough being the little guy sometimes.
Okay, well, AJ meant to say, gosh darn it, he just got confused when we were talking there, but the most amazing thing about this whole thing is, think about it. Sato's got a 4-second lead, he's pulling away, and by getting caught in what he did, instead of coming in with a 4 or 5 second lead, he comes in with Hinchcliffe right on his tail. James beats him out like you heard, and you see what happens. So, I mean, these people are pretty frustrated down here, and you can't really blame them.
It's a race that promised so much for AJ Foyt Racing and Takuma Sato. Now, for he and Mikhail Aloshin, it's all over. Just over an hour to run. Great shot high above. There it is, the one, the only Astrodome in the foreground as we welcome you back to the Shell-Pennzoil Grand Prix of Houston, race 1 of this doubleheader weekend. And just to update you on some things other than the Takuma Sato, Mikhail Aloshin, incident. Joseph Newgarden struck the turn 10 wall hard at the restart. Look at this.
Smacked the right rear and smacked it very hard back into the pits, and the mechanics working on the car now, as you see, but significant damage onto the car as a result of that. But Paul, it's so easy to lose the car coming out of that corner. We've seen it time and time again in the dry.
Yeah, well, the tires now, they've gone from warm to back to cold, and they're wet coming to the restart. You see Hinchcliffe gets it sideways as he gets on the gas. It still gets a good start.
It's been waiting. Oh, and that's Luca Filippi. Luca Filippi in the National Guard entry. His day is done.
Exactly the same as I just seen with Newgarden. You lose it, you're coming out of the corner, put the power on too quick on those cool tyres. Paul, you just called it. The tyres are cool, the brakes are cool. That wasn't a brake issue, that was just loss of traction on the harder tyres.
That's a quick corner too. It's a 115-mile-an-hour corner in the dry. It's got a dry line right now, but these guys are on cold tires. They're coming through a couple of wet patches coming to the start of this, and it's just there's a small river still running right across before they turn into the corner there.
Oh, he clipped the wall on the inside. He may have been unsighted by Simon Pagenaud, clipped the inside wall, which then just rocketed him into the outside wall. He's already made contact with the turn 10 inside wall before this. So there were 3 contacts in total, 1, 2, 3. Hearing from race control, the reason why that restart was waved off, they believe Hinchcliffe was a little too eager to get going. Now, that's the latest incident. Before this, it was Takuma Sato, Mikhail Aloshin. There's always 2 ties to a story. Let's hear the Russian side.
There is. Mikhail has made his way back to pit lane, and wow, that was a close moment for James Hinchcliffe, but you've made it back now the way that you saw that unfold from your seat.
Well, basically, I was a little bit better on the exit from turn 4, and I was gaining Takuma from, yeah, that's a good point, that's a good showing. I was gaining Takuma, I was from outside, and he closed the inside, and I was thinking that he gonna leave me the space on the outside, but then he closed the inside, and then he started to close the outside as well, but I got nowhere to go at this point already, so unfortunately there's nothing we can do at this moment, but basically, it all started from when my Conway ran into my back, and that's why I was in the back on the wheel, you know. I would never gonna be up there if not this first accident.
Now in Europe, they do not, when you're a lap down, you need to get out of the way of those cars. Here, often they let you race to get your lap back. Is that what you were trying to do?
Yeah, because I needed to gain my lap, and I was actually a bit surprised I was faster than Takuma at this point, and I was anyway lap down, so I just needed to get my lap, and that was it. But again, it's just a strange situation because he closed the inside, and then I take the outside line, but then he closed the outside as well. So I mean, it's a frustrating result for our team because obviously we had a good car and everything was going well, but again, everything was going well only until the moment when Mike Conway ran into my back, and that's when this all started.
Thank you, Mikhail.
Thank you.
Well, you better hide your guitar, son, before Mr. Tex breaks it over your head. I think that was a little over-optimistic.
I agree. Lad, you're a lap down. You can't do that.
So that is the heavily damaged National Guard car of Luca Filippi, who'd been so impressive all weekend. Here is his Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan teammate, Graham Rahal, who stalled at the start. Do you remember that? He was last in the field, and he's worked his way all the way up to 10th place. It could be a good day for Graham. He's still got a long way to go.
Back at the Grand Prix of Houston, and interestingly, the Shell Grand Prix of Houston. And remember, the Pennzoil, the yellow car here of Elio Castro Neves, last year carrying those Shell colors was a disaster. Both the races when he was the points leader knocked him out of the points lead. Today, he's working, he's soldiering forward in the points championship as they run. He was 39 points behind. Now he's gone 14 points only, vaulted himself again as they run in second position in the championship.
And he was very quick, Jan, to say that last year was last year. I got over that. I got over it when we left. I know it hurt me and my championship chances. New year, new opportunity. Here's James Hinchcliffe, the race leader for Andretti Autosport. I want to take you back just a few moments ago in a radio transmission. Let's have a listen.
That was close. What happened?
I just haven't been able to go through 8 on the slicks with any kind of speed, so I wanted to see just how slick it was. Evidently, it's pretty slick.
You just scared the crap out of everyone.
You've done that a few times in your career, Paul Tracy. That scare everybody in the team.
Yeah, you don't want to give up the lead, that's for sure. I mean, he was pushing it there, but I think the yellow was out, so I don't know if he was testing the tires or not, but certainly you don't want to end up in the runoff or sliding into the tires under yellow.
Scared his crew, yes, absolutely. Scared his crew, scared us.
I want to remind you while we've got this period of quiet that you can be a part of Honda's fastest seat in sports sweepstakes by simply going to shophonda.com and sign up. We saw Janice Vaughan earlier. She was screaming her head off in joy. She was loving her ride in the 2-seater, and for your chance to enter and lead the start of a Horizon IndyCar Series race, it is Honda's fastest seat in sports sweepstakes. Be a part of it. I know you will enjoy it, and there is no purchase necessary. All you have to do is go to shophonda.com and take part. We wish you good luck with that. Let's check in with Kelly Stavist.
Heartbreak, I'm sure, for Luca. What happened on that restart?
Obviously, I was trying and work very much the front to have them very warm. And I wanted to make a move on Simon. So I was on the overtake button. And I wanted to do the last corner as fast as possible, to have a lot of speed through the corner, but I made a misjudgment. I wanted to anticipate the understeer of the cold tires, but actually I didn't really have it. So I touched the inside wall and went on the other side. So it's a very big shame because everything went well so far, and I think the car was very strong in this condition.
Obviously, we've got another big race again tomorrow, so the crew will be hard at work. Did you have any idea how significant that damage was?
It's hard to tell. Luckily, these cars are very strong, and the Dallara cars are actually very strong. But I think everything will be fine for tomorrow. Sorry for the guys.
Thank you.
Well, for sure, from our vantage point, it's going to need 4 corners, Steve.
That's a basic requirement of race car setup, yes. In any series.
Go ahead, left one, center 3, prepare for the restart. Mind the cones here.
Packing up now. And there's been some guys just slowly sneaking their way forward, like Sebastian Bourdais and Justin Wilson. 3rd and 4th at the moment. There's Bourdais, there's Wilson. You know, they tangled at Texas Motor Speedway 3 weeks ago. Some pretty ill feeling there. And we'll see how that plays out. And Sebastian was very opportunistic and sneaky and capitalized on getting past Wilson before the yellow came out after that Sato incident. Ready to go back to racing.
Green.
This is a lot better pack up, and Hinchcliffe leads the field to green.
Remember those tire temperatures will be down. Just Philippi talking about those cold tires on the restart.
Ryan Hunter-Ray on Justin Wilson. That was a great move down into turn 2 chicane. Wow. Pagenaud with his hands full. Dixon's in behind him. Then we pick up Montoya. There's Charlie Kimball, Graham Rahal. There's a little bit of contact there. Jack Hawksworth is really starting to hassle Ryan Briscoe on the inside. Hawksworth, the rookie, at turn 4.
An aggressive move, wasn't it?
Still see there's puddling on the outside, so very, very difficult to make any type of a pre-move to set yourself up for the brake zone because there's still puddling on the corner on that main straightaway.
And there's that standing water that caught Philippi out, and it was a good point he was making about trying to anticipate the understeer on the tyres. I think he turned in too much, thinking the car would actually understeer off in a straight line and miss the corner.
Check this out. Look at this craziness. And on the inside is Tony Kanaan, Ryan Briscoe. There's Carlos Munoz, the guy he hit.
Teammates right there. Yeah. Wonder how all the bosses feel about that.
I know. A little nervous as Bourdais intensifies the pressure on Helio Castro Neves. Race leader Hinchcliffe has taken out a 1.2 second lead.
And Bourdais really needs a good event, and this has been a good track for him. He's a 2-time winner here. He was strong in practice and then had a problem in qualifying. He's putting the pressure on Castro Neves now. Here he goes.
Inside move at turn 6, lovely. Has he gone too far? No. Bourdais just traps that speed and gets on with it. Great move.
What a move. What a fantastic move.
This could be the day. This could be the race that Jimmy Vasser, Kevin Kalkoven, and the whole KVSH team have been waiting for. Because because like every driver, even though he's a 4-time IndyCar champion, Sebastian Bourdais is a confidence driver. And this year, on many occasions, just when it seems like it's going to be his day, like at Long Beach and others, things have gone wrong, whether it be out of his control or unforced errors on his behalf. Today, he might be turning that around. He's second, and he's out chasing after Hinchcliffe.
And he's pushing hard. He's climbing the curbs. He looks aggressive.
Let's have another look at this pass. As Bourdais pulls out now, hard on the braking. You've got to control the car, but he does control the car. That's excellent.
And Helio's driving very controlled. I think he's thinking championship right now.
Well, let's hear what one of his team co-owners thinks about that. Kevin Kalkoven is with Kelly.
And after we just saw that move out of your driver, Sebastian Bourdais, how much confidence do you see him in these tricky conditions?
Well, he's an extremely experienced driver, and he seems very comfortable. He's on reds and doesn't want any particular changes. One more pit stop, let's see how it goes.
Do you feel like this is sort of a big weekend that could be pivotal for turning the year around?
Well, halfway through, it'll be, let's see what happens by the end of it. In these conditions, I'm not taking anything for granted.
Right, well, he has got a happy driver in Sebastian Bourdais, who has had very little to say over the radio.
Bourdais is 12th in the Verizon IndyCar Series points at the moment. And look at that, a little bit of quiet confidence from Kevin Kalkoven. That is Tony Kanaan on one. Pablo Montoya is Montoya in trouble as Briscoe goes from the inside and turn one. That was forceful.
I think Montoya's got a flat tire or something because he's awfully slow for some reason. Maybe damage in the rear.
Remember, Montoya was one of the first, if not the first, to go to the harder compound black Firestone tyres when everybody else were going for the reds.
The back end of Montoya's car just breaking loose left and right. He's far from happy with the car.
And he's just trying to hang on, Steve. He just radioed in after he got past. I've got a huge vibration. Is that a tire potentially going down?
They might have had a lock up on the brakes and really locked it up down the brake zone and put a big flat spot on the tires, and then could have been the reason why he was slow on the straight, through that kink on the straight with the front tires vibrating.
Let's take you back just a few moments ago, and we're going to give you the view. Oh, Pagenaud cuts that chicane. Look a little bit further back. Here's Graham Rahal in the National Guard entry. Montoya tries his best to make that curb, of which he does. Hawksworth pounces. He goes flying through. And this is what it looked like for Rahal.
Do we see contact?
Yeah, not really.
Very small.
How about the rookie there? He just pounced. We're understanding that Will Power has tagged the wall somewhere on what has been a very frustrating day for the championship leader. This is how it happened.
Out in the wet, and just pow
That was
against
at
the
turn
wall.
9. And that allowed Carlos Munoz to slip on by. Here is Ryan Briscoe and Marco Andretti. And there was a little contact there from the Ganassi driver and the Andretti Autosport man.
I'm telling you, you still have to be very, very careful. You get offline, like Briscoe just did, and you're just going to end up out into the tires or hit the wall.
Teammates,
cars are all over the place right now.
Teammates collide. Charlie Kimball and Scott Dixon. What has happened here?
Big chunk of the front wing missing off Kimball's car, and I think it's...
Well, that's Dixon.
Yeah, it's Scott Dixon and Charlie Kimball.
I think Scott Dixon, he still has some of Charlie Kimball's wing.
Simon Pagenaud is still trying to just soldier home through this race. The brake issues, according to Rob Edwards, haven't gotten any better. He lost more spots in that last stint. In fact, he came in 13th position. He restarted in 6th position. So Pagenaud going to the sticker blacks here, and we see he's got damage as well there that we've spotlighted there on the right front. So he's gotten into it somewhere.
And the pole sitters' day just went the wrong direction. What's the story here? What has happened to Scott Dixon and his Ganassi teammate Charlie Kimball? Oh, it's Dixon. Ooh. Just slams into the wall. Oh, and there's the damage on Pagenaud. And then coming across the track, Kimball was just an innocent bystander.
Yeah. Damage to the right front on Pagenaud's car, just enough. Broke perhaps the track rod. There, you just heard the contact.
tires are now up to temperature, and everybody was pushing a little bit harder. And Steve, if you miss the line by 1 inch and put it into the water, the car will absolutely not turn, and that's what happened with Scott.
Guys, I think it just might be the rack blown apart.
They just got into the water, and the car just went straight, and there's no turning it after that. It's like you're on ice.
You see the damage there to the suspension here. You see the steel suspension wrapped in carbon to give it more of an aerodynamic profile, and if it was carbon, it was just a shattered, like an icicle would shatter. They're not made of carbon, they're made of steel, and so the steel will bend. You see the guys working on it now, but they have a lot of work on their hands to get that right front corner changed. Right here, you can see the crook on it right there.
And here comes the rain again, just to throw another variable into the mix. When that dry line had well and truly established itself, everybody was on the slick tires. More rain here in Houston.
Boy, oh boy, it doesn't take, and it's only that little bit of rain, I think, would catch a lot of these guys out, because the surface had just started to dry after that rain. We're beginning to get almost a 90% dry line around the track, but Paul, you know, you've driven thousands of races. As soon as you get a little bit more water on that potential drying line, it's greasy as anything.
Yeah, we have a lot of guys sitting by their cars. Dixon, Newgarden looking at the ground, a little bit disgusted. Obviously, opportunities squandered to make a bid at the championship. You can't have these situations now that we're coming down the home stretch.
The attrition rate has been very high in this race. You saw Joseph Newgarden stranded. He is out. Remember, this is only halfway. We're not even halfway through. Doubleheader weekend here in Houston. Michaela Lotion, Takuma Sato, Luca Filippi, Newgarden, Scott Dixon, maybe even Mike Conway as well after that earlier incident. So they are falling by the wayside as the rain comes down. How long will it hang around for? How heavy will it get? Everybody changing. They're in pit lane. We'll be back. Lovely to have you with us this afternoon live here on NBCSN for the Shell-Pennzoil Grand Prix of Houston. James Hinchcliffe leads the way from Sebastian Bourdais, Elio Castroneves, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Justin Wilson, and this young man here, the 23-year-old British driver, Jack Hawksworth. He features today in our Mazda driver profile. You know, yesterday in practice, he crashed his car heavily, damaging the front end at the Turn 2 chicane complex. It caused the team to have extra work. He started 21st in today's race, and he moves all the way up to 6th place. The rookie is doing a great job. This is what went down yesterday, and it was a hard hit. How about that?
Oh, I'm glad I'm not out there.
So Hawksworth has been patient, he's been smart, and he sits in a very good position. He could just get his career best result right here today. Up next, when we're done here on NBCSN, you can catch the best motocross riders around as they rip up the gnarly tracks in Tennessee. For the Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Championship Series, it's the Red Bull Tennessee National. That's next, right here on NBCSN. Let's check in with Jan Beekers. Jan?
George Clotes is on the radio with our leader, James Hinchcliffe, and I know there's a lot of discussion here on the pit stand. You were very close to maybe being able to pit and make it home, but was that too risky?
Right now it is. The race is going to probably be shortened by 2 or 3 laps. We're trying to figure that out right now. It's going to be getting close here. Guys are like driving in, trying to make it to the end.
I know James gave you a big scare testing out the conditions. Is the car good now?
Yeah. He was just checking out the conditions and it scared us.
All right, as you can see, he's quickly trying to get that communication and getting ready as they're going to go back to a restart. Kevin?
Well, an early exit for the defending series champion, Scott Dixon. What happened, Scott?
Just going into 9 there on a downshift, kind of locked the rear, and it kind of ran me wide a bit, and then I tried to turn and obviously got into the water on the outside of the corner. Hit the wall, then hit the inside wall, and unfortunately collected Pagenaud and Charlie as well, so big apologies to them. You know, it's just miscalculation, and I feel bad for those guys that I ruined their race. But you know, the target car was fairly strong. We had some issues early on in the wet with running on in the corners, but it's definitely an interesting day, that's for sure.
How challenging are the conditions right now? We're still a little bit wet on these slick tires.
It's pretty fun, actually. You know, the car's moving around a little bit, but you know, obviously, if you get offline a little too far, like I did, you know, it sucks you right in. But yeah, it's you know, that's the tough part about these street courses and damp and wet conditions, and you know, today just kind of came up short on talent here.
Okay, another chance tomorrow. We'll see you for race number 2.
Well, fun is a relative term,
Yes.
Steve.
I've just made that note too. That was kind of fun.
Well, he didn't have the good end of the fun, but we're definitely shaping up here for a showdown here with these top 4 guys. You've got the power brokers of the series here.
So Graham Rahal heads to pit lane when we go back to green. James Hinchcliffe. James Hinchcliffe leads the field to green. And look on the inside, Elio Castro Neves in the yellow Pennzoil entry. Thought about it on Sebastian Bourdais. Couldn't quite get there though. Rahal serviced and sent. And he continues his climb up the leaderboard.
Well, Sebastian looks very strong right now. He's held his own on the restart. He held off Castro Neves. And now that his tires are getting a little bit warm, he's drawing up to the back of Hinchcliffe. And I think assuming the next couple laps, he's going to try to strike.
This is the race, this is the moment that Sebastian Bourdais has been waiting for. He's been there, he's been close on occasions this year. But could this be the point where the momentum swings back his way and he puts together as he lights it up?
Very slippery there.
Really lights it up out of turn 9.
He's trying to get right onto the back of the transmission of Hinchcliffe, and by doing that, just put the power down a little bit too fast. And now you can see the gaps opened up as a result of these tiny little errors. All of a sudden you find yourself a 10th or 2/10 down, but he's working his way back again onto the back of Hinchcliffe's car.
Ryan Hunter-Ray, Justin Wilson. You're talking about 4th and 5th there. Jack Hawksworth in the background as well. What a moment for this young man. You know, I've spoken to him earlier in the weekend and he just said, you know what, I've had flashes of brilliance, I've had those good opportunities, but now I've got to convert those opportunities into a proper finish and really get some good championship points. Jan?
And we talked about a couple of cars making pit stops. One of those was Ryan Briscoe. What they had done is they put on wet tires. Remember, when you went to brake, it was raining a bit here on pit road. They decided, let's roll the dice in case it keeps raining. We'll be the only car on wets. It didn't work. He had to come back into pit road, put on the slick, so now he's chasing from the back.
Yeah, but if it had have kept on raining, you know, that's the way strategy works out, isn't it? When you throw the dice, it is a gamble, but sometimes it works, sometimes it does not work.
And how about Marco Andretti? He gets the Patience Award after being black flagged and penalised earlier, losing a lap. He has now worked his way back onto the lead lap and he's in 7th place, just at the tail of this group.
Oh, and that's the key to these street races. For a guy like Graham, who's starting further back, you might as well give it a shot, roll the dice. If it had worked out, he really could have been in a position to win the race, but you know, right now he's running about where he was, and he'll probably finish inside the top 10 if things go well the rest of the race.
Keep going, you never know what's going to happen further up. And that's the reason why Pagenaud, you know, repairing the car with that damaged wishbone, I think it'd be very easy to retire at that point. I think it's game over, forget it, call it a day. But no, if you can get the car out, get out there, son, and get after it.
Always love when you see these younger guys come up against the veterans. So case in point is Jack Hawksworth and Justin Wilson. And when Hawksworth was a kid, well, pretty much he still is, but when he was a lot younger, Justin Wilson would have been one of his heroes when he was racing in Formula One, and then when he came to America. And now this is the moment that Hawksworth could have only dreamed of, racing Justin Wilson and perhaps racing his way into a top 5. I think has been incredibly patient today and just chipping away at it. He was a little disappointed after qualifying, did not make it through to the Firestone Fast 6 when he thought he had a legitimate chance. It got away from him earlier today, and now here he is knocking on the door of a podium, and this is what he needs. Sounds funny talking about a series champion and an Indy 500 winner. He needs a good result, but he does, because ever since winning the Indianapolis 500, his season has gone away from him.
Detroit in particular was a horrendous weekend for him. This weekend started out pretty well. He was fast in practice, but had problems in qualifying. But he's just been steady today. He's working on Castro Neves, and I think if he can get a good result, it's a building block for the rest of the races.
How about the championship leader, Will Power? He is in the tire barrier. It goes from bad to worse.
No, I'm not.
I was about to update you on his position. I wasn't expecting that. Tim Cindric, president of Penske Racing, communicating with his driver. Here's what happened.
Just in that little bit of water right there, and he lost it in the rear. You touch that water with the tires, and you're out of control. Same thing with Dixon. He said he got loose under braking when he touched the water. I don't think there's any damage to the car. He'll get going, but you know, he'll probably lose a lap or two getting the car turned around in the right direction and started. So this has been a horrible weekend for Power.
Yeah, I was concerned there as we saw the car sliding towards the tyres. Oh, it's going to be the front wishbone, the front suspension, or the rear suspension that gets a hit. But I think he just nudged up against the tyres with the flank of the car, not even enough to damage the radiators. Once he gets going, I think he'll be in good shape. A little bit of damage down here. I mean, most of that's just water damage.
He's obviously waiting for somebody to come get him. It feels like you're sitting there for 10 minutes when only 30 or 40 seconds goes by. But you know, these are the little things that have hampered Will Power in the last few races. The little small mistakes that he's gotten away with and gotten lucky at, like Texas, the speeding penalty, and still ending up with a second. But most certainly today, he's not going to reach the podium.
And coming into this 9th round of the championship, he was the only driver in this field to complete 100% of the laps in this 2014 season. That statistic goes away right there.
Just chasing the car all weekend and couldn't find the right balance. And after qualifying, Will Power, when we asked him, said, well, I just didn't have the ride underneath me. You know, he just could not get the handling, the suspension set up around here to get it suited for him. Likes a very stiff handling car, but in these conditions, that just wasn't going to work for him. And then down come the rain, and we've been able to get it to work.
For James Hinchcliffe, this has been a patchy year, to say the least. 3 DNFs, 3 non-finishes. He had 3 victories last year when he kicked it off on the streets of St. Petersburg, and he would dearly love to return. Who knows, he may have been on his way to victory lane and the top of the podium at Long Beach when he was fighting his teammate Ryan Hunter-Reay before that massive collision.
As we see him driving there behind the pace car, sticking his hand out, both hands out of the cockpit to get a little air on the hands. He said before the start of the race that he was concerned about some blistering, had his hands wrapped up. You know, sticking those hands out in the cool air definitely cooled him down a little bit, so preventive maintenance on his behalf.
Less than 25 minutes to run, and pits are open. Here they come. Final stop of the race. Kelly standing by.
Sebastian Bourdais, who has won in Houston twice, so that was back in the Champ Car days on a slightly different circuit, comes in to make what should be his final stop. He's getting scuffed. Red tires on here. They've got to be quick. Down to Jan.
And James Hinchcliffe is finishing his service. He has chosen to go in black. And here comes Bourdais, and he easily beats him out. And it's a battle between Ryan Hunter-Reay and Castro Neves as well.
And Jack Hawksworth comes out of that order right behind those guys. So some good work there, and yet again from the Andretti Autosport team, they've done well in the pits, because not only did James Hinchcliffe get out ahead, but so too did Ryan Hunter-Reay. He beat Helio Castro Neves in their head-to-head fight out of pit lane. As the time winds down on this timed race, originally set for 90 laps, but because of the slight rain delay at the beginning, IndyCar Race Control decided that it would be a timed race at 1 hour 50 minutes, and there's 23 and a half left. Can the mayor of Hinchtown do it? Working our way back to green here on the streets of Houston, Texas, for the Shell-Pennzoil Grand Prix of Houston. Just over 21 minutes remaining in this race, the first of 2 this weekend in Houston. Doubleheader weekend. There's another doubleheader left this year. That's on the streets of Toronto. Justin Wilson is your race leader. He did not pit that time. He's been out there since lap 28, the longest of any driver out there. Let's go back to green. He's got the rookie, Carlos Huertas, right behind him. Huertas last pitted on lap 41 as we race lap 61. And Canaan goes on the outside of the rookie. Couldn't quite get it done there. He snaps back in front of Montoya, and Munoz goes, and Rahal runs into trouble.
Thread the needle there for James Hinchcliffe, but right now with Montoya, we think he is good to go till the end of the race. What he needs to do is just play this cool and not get too aggressive and knock a wing off or do anything silly, because if he keeps it clean and he can stay ahead of the fastest guy on the track with the Hinchcliffe, if he can just maintain that gap, he's got a good shot at winning coming back to IndyCar racing.
Yeah, Kanaan and Montoya pitted some 12 laps ago and they feel confident to complete these final 20 minutes, not needing to stop again.
Yeah, both of those guys pitted last time through, Kanaan and Montoya on lap 49. But remember, because of the wet conditions and the safety cars, the fuel consumption will improve. The fuel consumption figures will improve, so they will save fuel as a result of that. So it'll be well, those guys, for those teams are looking in fine condition. Wilson, though, however, as you said, Lee, last pit was on lap 28.
And both Montoya and Kanaan have a nice buffer of Saavedra, Munoz, Briscoe in between Hinchcliffe. So if those guys can hold Hinchcliffe's progress up, and they can maintain the fuel mileage to get to the end, you might be looking at these two guys being 1-2.
Speaking of 1-2, it's a Dale Coyne Racing 1-2 at the moment with Wilson and Huertas up front. But how long will that stay? And how hard is Kanaan and Montoya going to race? Here's Kevin Lee.
This is a remarkable accomplishment and turnaround for Tony Kanaan, who started on the back of this race in 22nd position. Barry Wanzer said before the race, we're ecstatic for this rain, because that kind of throws out the window whether you have a bad car or not. They suffered through maybe some electrical gremlins in the early going, but he has just persevered, and he is racing with Montoya, and Huertas might be able to make it to the end, but Kanaan has got a chance to steal one here today.
Time since Kanaan, I don't know what the date is, the last road course he won, but that would be a tremendous victory for Tony Kanaan if he was able to win on the street course here.
And look, even when you have the credentials and the years in the sport like Tony Kanaan, being a championship winning driver, being an Indy 500 winning driver, switching to a team like Target Chip Ganassi Racing, it wasn't just plug and play. It took some play in time, you know, for them to get used to him, for him to get used to them. He took over the seat of his great friend Dario Franchitti, and there was a settle-in time. And now they feel like they're all moving in the same direction, the right direction. So this could be a line in the sand for TK, for Tony Kanaan. A lot of people looking at this halfway point of the season as their personal turnaround points.
Most certainly, when you step into the seat of a four-time champion like Dario Kanaan, you know, plenty of times in the paddock we'd all be joking around saying, "Oh, Dario, I wish I had your car. I wish I drove for Chip." Carlos Munoz or Carlos Huertas here in second, putting all kinds of pressure on Justin Wilson, which is surprising. These two Dale Coyne cars right at the front here.
Montoya on the inside of Kanaan, and he makes the chicane. Great move.
It was a great move, wasn't it? Wow. Wasn't expecting to try that on that lap.
That's the old Montoya that I want to see.
Yeah, it is.
Comes Sebastian Saavedra into the mix as well. He's ahead of his teammate by a couple of positions, Sebastian Bourdais. Let's have a look at this. Watch the car, fourth in line. Nice move. Winner of 7 Formula One Grand Prix, Juan Pablo Montoya. He told us earlier this weekend that he's finally coming to grips with the current IndyCar. He's finally got his head around it, Robin, and he's looking racy.
The best thing about Montoya is he's got his old attitude, like PT said, because when everybody's complaining about how rough the track was yesterday, he goes, rough, it's not rough, it's got character. So it's rough for everybody. Quit complaining and drive, which has always been his attitude.
Good on fuel on slot 2, clear by 3.
This one's playing out interesting. There's a move down there in turn 2. It's Sebastian Saavedra who pushes his way through Tony Kanaan. He pitted 1 lap later than Montoya and Kanaan. So Saavedra theoretically should be good on fuel as well. The youngster who put it on pole at the inaugural Grand Prix of Indianapolis is racing perhaps for a podium. How's this one going to shake out? We've got 16 minutes left to play. Final break before we take you to the checkered flag. Let's find out who has gone the Shell extra mile and who the Shell performer is. And it's Tony Kanaan, who started in 22nd place and now is fighting for a spot in the top 5. TK doing well for Target Chip Ganassi Racing, and he is our Shell extra mile performer of the day. How far can he go? We're about to find out. You want to see a race? We've got one at the front. Dale Coyne racing 1 and 2. Justin Wilson fending off Carlos Huertas. The young Colombian is looking really racy. Then Juan Pablo Montoya, then Sebastian Saavedra. Then it's Tony Kanaan goes wide. Tony Kanaan ran wide in front of Carlos Munoz, and then arriving on the scene is Sebastian Bourdais. This is frantic in these final 13 and a half minutes. Great racing.
It is.
Jan, how about the guys up front? What are we looking at fuel strategy-wise? It's been ages since Wilson pitted.
It has. I just spoke to Dale Coyne, his team owner, and he said, well, we're going to try not to stop, but he had a big grin on his face. Obviously, for Justin Wilson, he's going to need some caution. Look at Huertas. He's pushing in. Huertas would also need some yellow, but it, I suppose, would be possible. Everyone behind Huertas, by my calculations, can make it to the end. These two Dale Coyne entries will need a lot of help by my numbers.
Pablo Montoya has an opportunity to get his first IndyCar win since back in 2000, and he's got a lot of new people on the 2 stand for Team Penske. John Buslog has been with Team Penske since 1986, but this is just his second race as a strategist, and they have a brand new engineer. Brian Campbell came over from NASCAR at the beginning of the year, worked to get up to speed throughout the season, but this is his very first race as the lead engineer for Juan Pablo Montoya. He told me yesterday, I think I'm close. I might be ready to win, and he's going to have a good opportunity because we know Wilson has the pit, so he's got a chance to chase Huertas for the win if Huertas can make it.
This is good stuff. Not only for the win, but in the top 5.
Fascinating stuff. I'm surprised at the pace of Wilson leading this race. He hasn't pitted since lap 28.
TK on the inside of Saavedra, and the position sticks, and through goes Carlos Munoz.
So Wilson's down on fuel. We know that. He has to be, of course, and that's going to make the car significantly lighter. There's the performance advantage. However, Paul, on the flip side of that, he's got like 40 laps on those tyres.
Yeah, we have an Englishman at the front being pounded by 4 Colombians, hungry Colombians that all want to win. You know, Dale Coyne, he's a dice roller. I think he's rolling the dice on this. Justin Wilson is fantastic at making fuel mileage in a race car. He's been doing this a long time. He has a lot of experience. If there's anybody that can pull this off, it's Justin to make it happen.
11 minutes remaining here in Houston, the first race in this doubleheader weekend. Montoya goes wide. Kanaan senses a chance to pounce. And Kanaan has been pushing it. In the back of the pack is Munoz. Behind him, Saavedra, Bourdais, Briscoe, Rahal, and Hinchcliffe. That's the top 10.
Wilson's still pushing hard, and his lap time's still competitive. And again, yes, there's an advantage because the car is significantly lighter than the opposition around him because of the lack of fuel on board. But the tyre life is incredible how Wilson's managing to get this car to work so well.
And this is the time where just the smallest little mistake, with all of these guys all so close together, you make a tiny mistake and you could lose 2 or 3 positions.
Can they hang on? Is it possible for the Dale Coyne pair to last, or is Juan Pablo Montoya set for a return win? How good is this race to the end as we welcome you back to Houston Live here on NBCSN. 8 minutes, that's all. Can Justin Wilson hang on? Is it possible that he's got enough fuel to last the end of this race? Well, he has just taken off from his Dale Coyne Racing teammate Carlos Huertas, and Wilson is 3.5 seconds in the lead. There he is.
He's doing an absolutely phenomenal stuff. I can only assume he must have had pontoon tanks fitted to the side of the car because this is like Desert Storm mileage is getting out of this.
Rahal on the inside of Saavedra. Now, as you saw in our non-stop break, Tony Kanaan has just been hounding.
Pit this lap, driver. We needed a pit this lap.
There it is. He answers the question. He couldn't last.
And it was good while it lasted though, wasn't it?
Justin Wilson, great drive.
Yeah. And that is the reason why he rocketed away. They told him he was going to have to pit in 2, so he decided he would just stand on it and try to build a gap. Obviously, all they need to do here is get in just a little bit of fuel. And you know, it's not a bad risk on a race that's timed. If there had been a caution, you never know, it could have paid. Obviously, it out, but stay green and it's going to the back.
So Carlos Munoz almost hit the back of Tony Kanaan to take evasive action. He missed the chicane. Rahal's now working on Bourdais for that 5th spot, pardon me. So Carlos Huertas leads. Here comes Tony Kanaan on Juan Pablo Montoya. Ganassi versus Penske.
Very difficult move on the outside. Ray Hall, what a drive by him. He stalled on the grid, was in last place, nearly 3/4 of a lap behind. Has had a spirited drive and just come all the way through the field on his own.
After stalling on the grid, he would have been thinking, oh no, this day couldn't be any worse. And here he is, right at the very end, vying for a spot on the podium in the National Guard entry. Time running out, minutes ticking away, and we're getting ever so close. This is the first time, incidentally, that Carlos Huertas has led a Verizon IndyCar Series race, and coming into this 9th round of the championship, first, second, and third on laps completed in the series, all 3 Penske drivers. You know who was next on the list? Carlos Huertas. He's had a great year in his rookie year.
His rears are going in front of you.
I sense Munoz is getting impatient. We'll keep an eye on that Munoz-Canan fight. Can Munoz get on the podium? Is Huertas going to last? What about this spirited fight between the Colombian and the Brazilian? Tony Ray Hall on the inside! What a slingshot! Ray Hall set up Carlos Munoz and just blew on by! That was sensational.
I think that's what Dad likes to see right there.
So Ray Hall from last, from stalled on the
only
grid
got 2 more to use.
to 4th, and they're talking about using the push to pass. Ray Hall looks at it on Canan.
He's the fastest car on the track right now.
He has 2 more push to passes left.
5 to go.
5 minutes, that's it. It's a 1-minute lap. We'll have about 4. 1 minute 3 they're lasting. The dying stages of this Grand Prix. Who will fill those podium spots? And can rookie Carlos Huertas just surprise us all? Collision between Briscoe and Saavedra.
Canan's got a run on Montoya. And Ray Hall has a run on the both of them. And Ray Hall's going for it.
Go again. Couldn't quite do it. And then Canan has to defend. So Ray Hall has 1 push to pass left. So too does Canan. Montoya is out. He's used all of his.
Full course yellow. Pits are closed. Full course yellow.
Yellow for Saavedra, stranded at turn 4. How about that?
Are you okay?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
With 4 minutes left, are we seeing this race finishing under yellow and Carlos Huertas winning? That's Briscoe tagging Saavedra.
How many laps till the end of the race? About 4 laps. About 4 laps.
That's the voice of Carlos Huertas.
And it is about 4 because as you can see the clock on the top of the screen, that's what we're running to. As Lee was saying earlier on, it is a time race, 3.5 minutes to play.
Well, fuel, Steve, is an issue for him. What I would do is I would slow this down as slow as I can get it to go. There's no pace car out yet, so I would, you're running the clock down, so there's no point in running around at 60, 70 miles an hour. You want to back it down to 25 or 30 miles an hour, as now they've caught the pace car, and try to run this clock out. He's got a shot here at winning this thing under yellow. Nobody likes to win the race under yellow, but we might have a green-white checker here.
3 minutes to play. Huertas still leading this race.
Okay, we will be going green this time by. Green this time by.
And this 23-year-old Colombian, Carlos Huertas, for Dale Coyne Racing, has never in his racing life felt pressure like this.
Boy, oh boy, he's got Montoya right behind him, Canan right behind him, and a really fired up Graham Rahal right behind him too.
That slingshot that he's been doing has been working phenomenally well using the push-to-pass button.
Big wheel
okay,
spin
so we need a good restart, and let's use our overtake.
It's been a couple of years since Dale Coyne went to victory lane. 2012,
okay,
and it was also in Texas.
He's got 5 push-to-passes, so he definitely has the most of anybody out there. They didn't go green this time, so the clock is running down. It'll be 1 lap to go when they pick the green, if they even get that lap.
Looks like it's going to be 1 lap of green here.
Hold on for this.
Start rubbing your hands together.
The advantage Huertas has is he has 5 push-to-passes, so he can use it on every straightaway of this last lap, whereas Montoya has none, Kanaan won, Rahal won. So he definitely has a big advantage. But does he have the fuel to use this push to pass?
Does he have the fuel to use it? Yeah.
And here he is. Now Munoz, who is sitting further back in 5th, he's been looking incredibly racy and just hassling the likes of Rahal and Kanaan, particularly Kanaan before he got overtaken from Rahal. He has 4 push to passes left on this, what would be final lap of this race.
He's got to be relatively low on fuel. We know that. Lap 41 for Huertas and lap 49 for Montoya.
Green this time by, green this time by.
He's a rookie. He's a rookie guy. I mean, we've had a couple of guys now crash in the last corner on the restart. The last thing you want to do is rush into that last corner and have it step out and hit the wall when you have a chance to win the race.
Let's be ready was the call, and everybody is ready to pounce. You ride with Graham Rahal. You're looking at Tony Kanaan. Montoya is up ahead. Is he ready to stand on the podium or even win? Gateway 2000 was JPM's last IndyCar victory. Oh! Rahal! Wow! Rahal has hit Kanaan coming around the green.
And damaged his wing, so that's going to affect him as well on this restart as well.
Yeah. Oh my! Oh dear, and yellow waves. And Tony Kanaan will be in disbelief.
Oh well, that was a bit of a messy end.
And when the cars surge and weave from side to side, I think Graham Rahal just got caught out.
I think he did. I think he did get caught out. But what a break
for Carlos Huertas.
Carlos Huertas, can you believe that? He must have been thinking, I've got to control this restart. I've got to control it. And now look what's happened. He's fallen into his lap.
So surging, this is normal. This is normal coming to a restart.
You ready?
Mistimed it. I wouldn't be surprised to see that get some type of a time penalty to dock him a few positions for that.
Very odd.
And in a strange twist, that's the second time this weekend that Graham Rahal has hit a Ganassi car. Yesterday in practice, he hit Scott Dixon from behind. Also in somewhat of an awkward incident. There is the man, that's Dale Coyne. And Carlos Huertas, his rookie driver, albeit under yellow, will see the checkered flag first. An incredible day in this young Colombian's life.
Speed, right? Normal speed, yeah? Just pace car speed, pace car speed.
And it's Christmas in June for Dale Coyne.
Unbelievable. Remember, Carlos started on the 10th row of this race. He was P19.
There you have it. Nice job.
There it is.
Nice job, Carlos.
A first-time winner in the Verizon IndyCar Series. And it's a Colombian 1-2 with one Pablo Montoya.
Way to go, brother.
Stepping back on the podium. How about that? Jan?
And Dale, you just had enough time to say great job. You put both your cars out in the front. You took a gamble for Justin. It didn't work, but boy, did it play for Carlos.
Carlos worked out great. You know, Justin needed one more yellow a little bit earlier, and we knew that was going to be close, but we thought Carlos was in a really good spot. The kid's been doing better all year, and he showed sometimes you put a guy in the front, and he can stay in the front.
What made you think to take both your cars and take that gamble?
Well, Carlos, it was pretty easy. It was easy early. We had kind of the strategy. His was set earlier. We set Justin's later. It just seemed like, you know, timed races are tricky. People forget about how to run a timed race, but we did well.
And you've been doing this a long time. Congratulations.
And we need to update you that race control, IndyCar Race Control, has handed down 30-second time penalties to Ryan Briscoe for avoidable contact with Sebastian Saavedra, causing that previous yellow. And then Graham Rahal in the National Guard entry gets a 30-second time penalty. That elevates Carlos Munoz to third. It's a Colombian 1-2-3. A sweep of the podium. Huertas, Montoya, and Munoz. What a day. What a story. Simply incredible. And it's always welcomed to have a new winner in the Verizon IndyCar Series. And that new winner is Carlos Huertas for Dale Coyne Racing. Back in Houston for the post-race wrap, and what a story we've got for you. A new winner in Carlos Huertas, a very despondent Tony Kanaan. There he is, just thinking about what could have been, and will be extremely frustrated with what appeared to be quite an awkward accident. Taken out by Graham Rahal, and Rahal has since been penalized, and it just seems to be Colombia's day. They win in the World Cup over Uruguay, and Carlos Huertas wins his very first Verizon IndyCar Series event. It's time to celebrate. Kelly?
And there have been plenty of people on hand to congratulate this rookie on his first ever IndyCar win. One of the first on the scene was his compatriot, Juan Pablo Montoya, who came over to give his congratulations. A big day for your country, first in the World Cup and a 1-2 here. You told me earlier in the season you had no expectations because this deal came together so late. Could you have dreamt you'd be sitting here in victory lane?
For sure, it was always possible. The team did a great job, and the races are so long here that you always have a chance to win if you do the right things at the right time. And today was really tough. I was really struggling. I had no pace in the first half of the race, but I remind myself, just stay calm, do what you have to do, and I did that, and the team called it perfectly with the fuel, and yeah, it was a great day.
Certainly a strange race, and it was a great strategy call to get you up front. How much pressure were you feeling, especially with a guy like Juan Pablo behind you?
He was not a problem. I was just worried about Justin because they said he couldn't make it to the end, and he was defending all the time, and you know, they said he doesn't have any fuel, and then he keeps going faster and faster, so I tried to pass him. He closed the door, and yeah, at the end of the day, it's a victory for the team and for myself. It's great.
A fantastic day for Carlos Huertas. Congratulations.
7 different winners from the 9 races thus far. What a day for Carlos Huertas. And the revised results, you see Munoz elevated to the podium in a Colombian sweep here in Houston. More after this.
And some are calling it Colombia Day here at the Grand Prix of Houston. Of course, 1-2 for Colombia. For you, Juan, again, it came down to strategy and making the calls on pit road.
Yeah, we were running pretty good, and we were running like 7th or something, and then we came in, put black tires, and went in dump track, and that really hurt us. So we, you know, suffered there a little bit, but in a way, it forced us to do something different, and it paid off. You know, I was amazed. We did timed race, and it's like 35 minutes to go, and I'm counting 30 laps. You can make it. This pace, you can make it. Why are they not stopping? I was kind of surprised nobody pitted. And I'm like, oh, thank you.
When you got out of the car, you went immediately over to Victory Circle, and you went to Carlos, and you gave him some advice. What was that?
No, I just said congratulations. He's a good kid, you know what I mean? And he did a good job today. He did what he had to do to win.
I can tell you what he was doing. He was teasing him, saying, come on, zip up the suit.
Afterwards, yeah, the second time, yeah. You know, I'll be honest with you, our Verizon Chevy was really good today, and I thought we had there a chance to win, but at the end, tires went off and not. But I do tease him a lot. I went like, close it, because he had the suit all open. I'm like, you got to look good.
All right, from a pro. Kevin?
Well, Tony Kanaan had at least a podium, maybe more, before he was turned by Graham Rahal going into the last restart. Since you climbed out of the car, you have really showed no emotion. I know you're steaming. How are you dealing with this from your perspective? What happened?
Oh, I got to be professional. So I have a team to defend and a lot of good sponsors, so I can't do what I really wanted it to do. So, you know, what a shame. It was a great run by the Target Chip Ganassi boys. We, you know, we fought all the way, all day long, and to be taken out like that, I think it's stupid. But he was having a good day too, and ruined his day. So I guess I wanted to believe the best. I wanted to believe he didn't do it on purpose. Of course, he came to apologize, but that still doesn't take the frustration out of me.
We just saw that conversation a moment ago. He accepted all the blame for that.
Yeah, I mean, he has to, man. Come on.
Well, we've seen race car drivers react differently at times.
He's a humble guy, you know, and it's just a shame. What am I going to say? I mean, am I mad at him? Yes. Can I turn back in time? No. So we got to turn the page and move on to tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Tony Kanaan. We'll have a good car tomorrow.
That's a difficult one to swallow for Tony Kanaan. And look at this, teammates, Justin Wilson. He knows what winning feels like. Congratulating first-time winner, Carlos Huertas. 3 Colombians getting set to take to the podium, and what a day for Carlos Munoz and Huertas, the race winner, sitting with one of their heroes, Colombian hero one, Pablo Montoya, to enjoy those celebrations. Somebody who thought he may have been heading there was Graham Rahal. He's standing by with Kelly.
Well, what a roller coaster of a day for you, Graham. From dead last after you stalled on the start, you looked like you were contending for a podium. What happened there at the end, and what did you say to Tony?
Well, I mean, obviously I said I'm sorry. You know, it's with the stack up on the restart, I was trying to keep the tires just as dry as I could, and I was just, you know, to the left, and when it stacked up, I just didn't see it at all, and I got into the back of them. Obviously, this has happened about 100 times this year, but it doesn't make it right. I mean, this National Guard car, you know, I said last night that it could win today, and we didn't qualify as well as we thought we could have, but everybody saw there was nobody quicker than us on that racetrack, so what can we do? You know, we have to go back out there tomorrow, try to qualify a little better, run up front. I think if it ended under green, I would have won this race for sure, and I feel confident saying that because I was moving by those guys in a hurry, but shoulda, coulda, woulda. You know, in the end, I made a mistake, and I don't even know where we finished, but that's the way it goes.
Well, the good news is you get to go right back at it tomorrow. Thank you, Graham.
Thank you.
Yes, in the end, he did finish 11th after that 30-second penalty that he and Ryan Briscoe got for late race avoidable contact. And we're only halfway there. And look at this. Will Power came into today with a 39-point lead. He only loses 6. So he maintains position 1. Pablo Montoya rockets up into the top 5. Munoz helps himself there as well. And James Hinchcliffe and Bourdais into the top 10 after very solid days from those guys there as well. Well, we can only say with everything that today gave us, we look forward to tomorrow with a lot of excitement. It's the same, everything the same. Distance, time, and racetrack. And these guys have to do some massive rehydration and debriefing and think about what went right and what went wrong tomorrow. Paul Tracy, quickly, looking forward to it?
I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, Power minimized the damage today with Castroneves finishing up 9th. I'm sure Castroneves has to be disappointed.
Steve Matchett coming back. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, mate.
He's excited as well. Hey, motocross, Lucas Oil Pro Motocross is coming up next here on NBCSN. And we will see you at 3 p.m. Eastern for the second half of this doubleheader weekend, the Shell-Pennzoil Grand Prix of Houston. For more information about the Verizon INDYCAR Series, head to NBCSports.com. We want to congratulate 23-year-old Colombian Carlos Huertas, a first-time INDYCAR winner. Motocross now. We'll see you tomorrow.